In this video, I'm going to show you how to fit a Scalextric digital chip into an Analogue Scalextric car. So basically, fitting one of these into one of these. So what tools do I need? Well, first of all, you need a donor car. This is a 1990s vintage Scalextric car. It's a Porsche 956, pretty common in the Le Mans 24-hour sets, in this quite basic Repsol livery. Basically, this is the Porsche that steamrolled all the competition in the early 80s in Group C. Pretty successful car, quite an attractive car as well, and extremely fast in a straight line. The model itself hasn't got any lights, hasn't got a huge amount of detail, but that does mean it's quite good in crashes. There's nothing really to break off. This one is missing its mirrors as well. So yeah, not a lot of space inside, which might make it a bit of a challenge. And also, it's got no DPR or digital plug-ready socket on the bottom. So that's what we'll be looking to fit. Next thing you need is the chip itself. This is a C8515 Rev G chip. So we've also got here the Rev H chip. There is a difference. I'll show you that in a minute. The wiring harness, again, we'll go over the colours of that in a minute. You need some screwdrivers. The only reason you need the screwdrivers is to whip the body off the car and to screw the DPR chip down. You need a pair of these clamps. Well, actually, strictly speaking, you don't need them, but they make life pretty easy. You need one of these. I put them in this bag because they're so small. These are M2 by 4mm countersunk screws. Use those for screwing the hatch into the bottom of the car. Next thing, you need these little tiny things. These are female spade connectors, 2.8mm. You need 2 of those. You can reuse the ones in the car, but I find that they're very difficult to get off. You need some super glue. I'm just using some 1 gram of Loctite. You need some solder. I'm using it on this spool. And you need a soldering iron. I'm using an 18-watt one. You also need a soldering station and these little clips to hold the workpiece in place. Again, you don't need one. I've done them without, but it makes life a lot easier. You need a Dremel. Actually, no, you don't need a Dremel, but it makes life easier. You could probably just use a file, which I've also got here. But if you are going to use a Dremel, obviously you need some bits. I've got a slitting disc, a drill, and a sanding disc. You will need some snips and some wire strippers. You probably could use scissors, but these are better the job. They're sharp and do a nicer finish. Finally, you need these parts as well. So this is a cutting template and the SSD receptacle. I've 3D printed these. The link is in the description, so you can go and print these out if you want. So I'll quickly take through the details of the Scalextric chip. This is the chip that I'll be fitting into my car. This is a Rev G chip. You can tell it's Rev G because it's got this big silver component. I'm not sure what that is, but it's dominated by this this big receptacle here, which is where the wiring harness goes in. This is like I said before, is a JST 2mm wiring harness, and it comes with the flying leads. So the pinouts are black is right hand braid or right hand pickup. Red is, hang on, where's the red one? The red is right hand motor. White is left hand pickup, and yellow is left hand motor. So it's pretty simple. There's only 4 wires to connect, but that makes life a lot easier for us. You can see on the bottom of the chip, you've got this little IR emitter here, and what this does is, as well as telling the car what speed to travel at, it also tells the car, the Scalextric Digital tells the car what frequency to transmit through this IR. So it tells the track either to change lane or not change lane, and there's a little receiver in the digital part of the track. So quite key that this little door is on the bottom of the car, otherwise it won't be able to change lane, which is of course one of the big things with digital. You can get retrofit chips as well, which have the little emitter on a flying lead, But I like the idea of these chips because I can swap them between my cars, and also the Rev H has a better facility for lights, which I'd like to do sometime in the future. Right, so next thing, I'm going to take the case off the car, the body off the car. I've taken a couple of the screws out already, and make sure that you don't lose those. So put them in the lid of the screwdriver box. That's what I tend to do. Quite easy to get apart, this car. It's only 3 screws, and it's held on at the front with a couple of tabs. So there we go. Keep my screws, put those into one side. Yeah, so there's the car, pretty basic inside. You can see well, actually that one's fallen off, but the braid connects through to the pickup connects through to this part here, goes to the motor, makes the motor turn, and then it returns back to the pickup there, and then the circuit is complete, and the car will be controlled when it's running under analog. What I'm going to do, and we'll just take that off, is fit this little piece here in here. So I will cut a hole for that to go in. Actually, I've got that the wrong way up, sorry. Cut a little hole for that to go in, and then super glue it in place, and so that the little door can fit on the bottom like a normal DPR car, how that would work. So that's what we're going to do next. Right, so the next thing I do is strip the car down. Basically, you don't need any of the things in the way, so I'm taking the front axle off. It's quite easy snap fit. Taking the rear axle off, just slightly bend the chassis so that the bearings pop out. There we go. And finally, strip the motor out as well. Actually, I don't think the motor will come out of this one. So what I'm going to do to make my life a bit easier is just unsolder little wires here. Put my solder on, apply the heat. That one's gone, and that one's gone. So you don't need those wires anymore. We've got the little spade connectors on here. You can't really reuse them, so chuck those in the bin. Next thing I'm going to do is, this is the little cutting template that I use. Now the key with Scalextric Digital is to get this little emitter window as close to the pickups as you can, so when you're power sliding the car you can still change lane if you want to. So that little window needs to be as far forward as you possibly can make it. So what I've got here is a little window, sorry, not a window, a template, which I put a little ridge on, so you can put it either way up, so you can straddle that little piece there. So basically what you've got to do, and what I'm going to make my life a little bit easier, is take the guide out, put that to one side with all the other parts. I noticed that a bit of damage to this car. I'll mend that in a moment. But basically put the cutting template exactly where you want it. So I think about there will do. So not sure if you can see how close I've got that. It's just under these little metal pickup parts. So here I am with the cutting template. What I'm going to do is just clamp that into place with these little clamps. So, oops, one there, and one there. Key thing to remember here is to make sure that when you've got it fitted, you can see that this window here corresponds to the little raised piece on this window. So that is exactly where you want it. So you have to sort of line it up by eye. It's quite difficult, but the little tab where the screw goes in to hold it in place goes to the rear of the car, so you can get that window as far forward as you can. So what I've done, I've designed this so that I've got these little stiffeners, because when you cut this big window in the car, and the chassis, there'll be a lot less chassis material than you had before. So I put these little stiffeners in to give you something to put the strength back in the chassis. So that's going to be about there. So I can actually move that fractionally forward. Actually, I'm not going to, because it's trapping with those braid pickups. So I reckon that's where we'll cut the hole in the bottom of the car there. So the car's ready to drill. I'm going to use the Dremel with this whatever size drill that is that goes in the Dremel. It's probably 2mm or 3mm drill, doesn't really matter what size. Also using goggles, very important. I'm also using this drill block so I don't drill into my workbench. So here we go. What I'm going to do is just drill the corners just so I know where to go up to. Making sure it's absolutely square and central. Right, so now I've drilled the holes in the corners, so that's where I'll start. So what I'm going to do next is make that a little bit larger using the slitting disc. Right, so we're done with that. So I need to swap the drill. Best thing to do with the battery Dremel is take the battery off so that you don't accidentally cut your hand off when you're changing the tool. So we don't need that piece anymore. Do need the slitting disc, so I'll just put that in there like so. Shove the battery back on, and now we're going to join up those holes to make a thing. So goggles down, keep your hands well away from this because obviously it's quite a dangerous tool, and then off we go. It's been a little quick that, so I'm going to slow that down. So yeah, you can see the first slit's done. Make sure to keep your fingers away. Right. Oops, that little piece has come off. So there we go. All the corners are joined up, and then just make it easier. Just take my goggles off. And the corners there where it's still got a little bit of plastic, just snap those off. Actually, I need to quickly go through that Dremel again. Right, hopefully that should pop out now. Ah, there we go. So you can see it is getting quite weak now because there's not a lot of material left there. But that's the basic. So that's where the chip's going to go. So let's offer up our cutting piece again. You can see this bits of plastic rubbish out of the way. You can see that still quite a lot of material needs to come off. So I'm going to clamp on my little clamps again. And then I'm going to get my file and then just tidy that up. Right, so I'll show you what you need to do. Get your file and then just file until it's square around the edges. So I'll do that and then I'll show you what I've done. Right, so here's the chassis now with the big hole cut out of it. It's quite hard to do because there's all these features around it. In the end I used the sanding disc to sort of get it close, and then the file just to get it, you know, just get it absolutely square. I have gone a bit over in one of the corners. It's really hard not to do that. You can see, oh, and I've also modified the little receptacle here. I've cut this little half moons thing in there just to go under the protruding motor shaft there. But you can see now that the little socket piece fits in pretty nicely there. So hang on a second, it's just a little snap fit. There we go, and it go in. Perfect. So there you go, look, fits lovely. And plenty of space. Just make sure it's square. Yeah, actually, do you know what? I'm going to just quickly take a little bit more material off just to get that, just to give me a little bit of play when I sort of shuffle it in. There we go, and on this side as well. There we go. Right, let's try that again. Get this plastic rubbish out of it. There. Yeah, I've gone a bit over there, but that doesn't really matter. Fill that up with epoxy resin. So there we go. There is the pocket ready to go. All right, so there's the receptacle. Time to reassemble the car, but also make sure the chip fits. So let's just try this on. I've actually blown this chip up, so it's a bit of a dummy, but should fit in quite nicely. To get that little annoying thing in there, so that fits in there like so. So it's starting to look like a DPR car now. Take the little screw. Again, these are so tiny. You can lose them really easily. Let's get one of those. There we go. Using my number 0 screwdriver. Just put that, screw it into place. Job's a good one. So yeah, it's starting to look like an SS DPR car now. Perfect. Right, so the next job is super gluing that into place. So we'll just see where we need the super glue. So I reckon we need super glue. Actually, I'm going to do it on the bottom of here. It gives me a bit more space. So put a blob there, on there, on there, on there, right, and then just down here. This is what's going to give it really decent stiffness on there, and then down there. I just glued back that little annoying thing that fell off. So here we go. Hopefully this will fit first time. Drop that in. There we go. Just glue that into place. Holding it tight. Careful not to get your fingers stuck to it like I've just done. Right, now we've got the chip fitted to the bottom of the car. I'm just going to show you how to wire it up. So I'm just going to put this wiring harness now, which I've chopped down a little bit. I'm just going to plug that in just to show you that I've got the right length. So black and white go to the pickups, and those two go to the motor. So you want to leave a little bit on so you can get the chip in and out, but you don't want too much that it's impossible to house all the wires. So I'm going to chop those off there. I'm going to cut those off about there. So there we go. There's our wires. So I'll just unplug that because I'm going to show you what I want to do next. So remember these little spade connectors? They connect to the pickups there. So what I need to do with those is just strip back some of the black and white wire here. So I'm going to set my strippers to 22. Yep. And then just strip the wires back on. And 2. Right, so I've crimped on the 2 wires. Now I'm just going to put a blob of solder in just to hold the wires. So put the tin the line a bit in there, feed a bit of solder in. Done. And same with the black one. Done. There you go. They're all crimped up. Now what I found with these was they're a bit loose to go on the chassis, so you need to just slightly squeeze the hand only a little bit, just to make them grip. So you only need a little bit on there, hardly any. So they go on here. See, that's a nice tight fit on there now. Was a little bit too tight. Ah. Right, that's on. Right, so I put the crimp wires and I put the chip back in. Now I'm going to make the wires off. So I'm just going to a bit of timber soldering iron, bring the yellow down, make sure it's touching that wire. That one, and same with the red one. A bit, oops, got to tin that one. Let's tin that one a bit. There we go. Job's a good one. So there's a bit of wire sticking out there. Just trim that off, make it look neat. There we go, all wired up. Right, so the next job now is to look at how the car goes back together. So we need all of the axles. Let's put the front axle in. That's good. And the rear axle. That's good too, making sure that the bearings are lined up. Slightly bend the chassis a bit. These are quite hard to get in. There you go, yes. There we go. Alright, now because it's so low, I think they probably find that we need to bend these down a bit. So what I'm going to do is just bend these over. So what I've had to do with these little things is to bend them over. They still go under the shell. I don't think there'd be a problem because they're retained in these little screw holes. But yeah, because it's quite low at the front, you need the really short spay connectors. Now under the chip under the cockpit is a completely different question. You can see it's really touching. So what I'm going to have to do is Dremel away some of this material here. I think it's going to be a certain amount of trial and error with it. Alright, see how that does. Well, that's not bad, it's almost there, so just take a little bit more off. Let's just offer that up now. No, I'm still pushing on it a bit, so I'll take a little bit more out. That should be plenty. Don't worry about all the stuff going in the cockpit, you take the windscreen out. Yeah, it's got it. It's done. Right, so put the screws back in. That's the rear one. Make sure those wires aren't catching. And put the guide back on. Job's a good one. Right, now, see if I can. There we go. Ready to be tested. See on the bottom there, there's the chip, SSD ready. Right, so here I've set up my test track. It's a simple loop with a basic crossover and a in-out crossover that's digitally operated. So I've set the Porsche up, let's set it on the track, and off we go. Right, so I'm going to see if lane changing works the next time round. There you go, working perfectly. So there you go, Porsche 956 with the DPR socket on the bottom. It's a bit of tidying up needed in the cockpit area, but works pretty well.